please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Omegon 2. Today we're going to be looking at even more confusion from the gender ideology crowd. And there's a reason for that. We have two videos, one pertaining to gender identity and another person who's in some kind of clear mid-20s crisis talking about military. The first one we're going to look at is quite short and featured on Fox News. Of course you can disregard Fox News if you like as some far-right fascist institute. I regard most news outlets as left or right-leaning and not worth time, but sadly there is no such thing as a truly unbiased outlet. So, the first video, the seasons.
Did you know, however, there is a gender identity that is linked to the seasons?
No, there isn't. This is another attempt to try and justify people who don't fit in with the men, the women, and anyone else for that matter, having an excuse to try and stand out, to draw people to them like a moth to a flame. The sheeple are the moths, and the flame is the person who continually changes and burns so damn bright, like the Astronomicon.
This is called gender season.
If you're feeling creative, you can go with a winter-themed 'Tis the Season to be Gender. If you want to go with spring, summer, autumn and have relevant songs and insert the word gender into it, go nuts. Gender season is not a thing. This is up there with those that have genders for their close friends and genders for the oikory. A one rule for me, but not for the changing like you do when you change your medications to match the seasons because they no longer affect you the way they do, depending on the hot or cold of the year. Honestly.
And this is a gender identity I've only just learnt about.
So this is either a fortune cookie, a magic 8-ball, or one of those crisscross things kids have in the playground that you make like origami. Another excuse to try and seem unique and independent when there are over 7 billion people on this sodding planet. At this point, ideology has become, gender especially, absolutely trivial.
It's a micro-identity, it's not an identity that I have ever heard discussed before.
So even within this sphere of identity and how important it is in the current generation and social media, especially those that seek attention on it, this one is going to be a fad that will die very, very soon. Because once the quirk of it, the thrill of the newness of it, wears off, it'll be like that toy you always wanted as a kid. Once you've got it, you no longer need it, want it, crave it, desire it, in search of something more validating. Neurotic is the word you're looking for, along with narcissism.
It's a new one for me. Gender season is an individual who explores their gender identity in relation to a season or all the seasons.
Great, so we have an even more complicated system to address based on not only the day, the month, the year, the week of course should be included. We don't want to exclude those who identify as weak gender. And now we can add another umbrella, we can add another term, a wing, a spoke to the umbrella at least, whatever they're called, their little stem bits, to expand upon the umbrella depending on the season, which in turn will create more that identify with various shades of leaf as they either grow, develop, bud, and of course, fall. I keenly await for someone to identify as dead tree gender then. Can we just reduce this down to ent?
So this might be somebody whose gender expression and identity is linked to one season, so for example, winter.
Well, we may as well go with the coldest. I'm assuming this would fit with those who identify as Capricorn as well, because star signs are always right, and they're known for being cold and more sarcastic and blah, 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 blah gender. While I'm recording this, I'm desperately trying not to roll my eyes too heavily, because I'm starting to feel my optic nerves strain.
Or this might be somebody whose gender identity and expression changes depending on the season.
Right, so a mood ring is required to better help one explore themselves. I took liberty of going to your TikTok page to try and find this video and I couldn't see it. Usually it would be one of the more popular videos and you put out a lot of content, usually shorter format. TikTok is a bitch to try and sift through to find the one that really stands out to get the rest of the context on this, so sadly I cannot provide it. As far as the idea of season gender goes, I think it's a load of rubbish. In your content, you talk about a lot of gender ideology and the fact that you started exploring yourself during lockdown. The majority of the comments you get on all your content tell you when you're going to start growing up, because you espouse your beliefs about trans non-binary identity, but you do nothing. You accomplish very little as well. You just try and look as quirky as possible and post as much as you can about your activism, while accomplishing nothing at the same time. In fact, the only claim to fame you can have is that you featured on Fox News, and that you spend a lot of time on Twitter taking issues that are remarkably serious like this one and making it about trans women. Now this video is not going to get much better. We're now going to move on to the second video. The second video though could be a Poe, could be, I'm not sure, but we'll treat it as if it isn't going forward. Oh dear God, you do the hand things that those NPC TikTok streamers do. This is a tad tragic. And you started with an uwu? Oh no, that must be your hook.
Get ready with me to sign up for the military. I'm signing up for the military because I know my cat-like instincts would be very helpful in combat.
If you were ever made to serve in the military, I can promise you those cat-like instincts would not be put to use. You'd be broken down to serve as a grunt. You'd serve a purpose, and once they found what you were good at, they would then exploit it. If you were thrown into a warlike situation, but you'd have to pass a number of psychological examinations first. Wartime is a very different mode of living to that of expressing one's individuality, because the greater picture takes precedent over your apparent uniqueness.
And because I think Bakas look super cute in a military uniform. I'll be frolicking around in a pink uniform, though.
You know, I'm not entirely convinced that any military would be overly okay with you wearing a pink uniform, if you're serving on the front line, that is. Or not on the front line. In fact, you might be hard-pressed to find a military on this planet that is okay with you wearing a pink uniform.
If they're not okay with me wearing pink, they're gonna have to deal with my kitty wrath.
Yes, there's nothing quite so terrifying as some, would-be twink in pink hissing at their superior officer. I can imagine you would be beasted into submission at that point. Military aren't, well, they're not very good at handling one's unique individuality when you are to serve as part of a squad, platoon, battalion, whatever, really. If you are serving on the front line especially, it gets a bit more complicated because that uniqueness is usually beaten out of you. Failing that, you can always go collect your white feather at the gate and go back to being you, and then claim you've served in the military, or go AWOL. I hear that works out so well as well these days. If you weren't saluting at that strong, independent, brave individual there, you should be ashamed of yourself. You are not a patriot. I am disgusted by your lack of patriotism. For shame, now send me all the chocolate, in penance, and go flagellate when you have the opportunity.
I'll be honest, I've been super lonely here in my kitten burrow.
I have it on good authority, life does get quite lonely when you spend most of your time trying to separate yourself from everyone else by being so individual, unique, and totally awesome. If at any point a sarcasm sign was required for anything I've said today so far, you need to get help.
So I know a change of military scenery will do wonders to my kitty brain.
You're right, because it will take your kitty brain and send it into extinction, while the other version of you, the one that is being perhaps suppressed, you never know, it's not my place to assume or presume, would then be brought to the front. The one that is more obedient. Cats are not known for obedience after all.
I'm gonna be super nervous trying to sneak in my catnip because I heard it's banned in the military.
Oh, what a shame. Recently I gave some catnip, cat crack it's more commonly known as, to my sister's cat Voodoo. As you can see from what you're seeing on the screen if you're watching, he took it really well. He thoroughly enjoyed it and ended up looking like this at the end. In the military you want to be a bit more wired and less high as a kite.
What the heck? I don't care that it's banned though, I need my catnip to be the best in combat.
I have it on good authority in a military situation. To be the very best version of yourself, like no one ever was, you need less catnip or a pokeball. You need training, and one of those quaint little pew-pews that actually goes pew, 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 pew. That thing.
Because I'm here to serve in meow for this country.
In my head, I was trying to envision how the US national anthem could be altered to include meow. There have been talk, I believe, of alternative versions of the US national anthem to include differing ethnicities, differing belief systems perhaps. But I think that tears at the identity of what the country is meant to be. But I cannot wait to hear the Cat-Spangled Banner, preferably sung by you. I need this commitment.
Anyways, you guys wish me good kitten luck on my journey to the military. Ooh, ooh.
The nature of this video comes across as the reductio ad absurdum of what we see on social media now. People identifying as something to then suffer a real life consequence. And the next part is the spoofed aspect of the consequence, right? Which is why I'm not sure if this is meant to be a Poe or not, right? The nature of social media has become so blurred and murky that I cannot tell what is real or not anymore.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna be able to serve for us.
What? I can serve in so many different positions! Look! Ooh. 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 Meow. 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 Meow.
I don't know if it's possible for me to laugh and cringe at the same time without having some kind of seizure as well. So, instead, I'm going to put it to you that if you were going to be unique and the military was going to welcome something truly you, yes, something unique to you, and yes, I've said unique very many times today, so many times today, unique, 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 unique. Tell me about it in the comments and how that would better serve you in the military. Thank you.